I've always cherished the serenity of my small suburban town. I live alone in a cozy cottage, tucked away at the end of a quiet street. My life is simple, consisting of my job as a librarian and my evening strolls through the neighborhood. One warm summer evening, as I was returning from my usual walk, I noticed a man standing beneath a street lamp a few houses away from mine. He was tall and wore a baseball cap pulled low, obscuring most of his face. He appeared to be watching me. My heart quickened, but I brushed it off as paranoia and hurried home. Over the next few weeks, I noticed the same man lurking in my vicinity during my evening walks. I began to feel a sense of unease, as if I was being watched. I shared my concerns with my best friend Lisa, who suggested I contact the police. I hesitated, not wanting to make a fuss over what might be a harmless coincidence. One fateful night, my worst fears were realized. I was returning home after visiting Lisa when I felt a hand clamp over my mouth and I was dragged into an alley. Panic surged through my veins as I realized the man in the baseball cap was my assailant. He forced me into the trunk of his car and drove off, leaving behind the quiet neighborhood I had loved so much. For days, I was imprisoned in a dingy basement. I lost track of time as my captor subjected me to unimaginable horrors. He taunted me, revealing that he had been watching me for months. I knew that my chances of escape were slim, but I refused to give up. One night, as my captor grew complacent, I saw my chance. He had left the basement door unlocked, thinking I was too weak to escape. With every ounce of strength I had left, I crept up the stairs and cautiously explored the unfamiliar house. I stumbled upon a small window that led to the backyard. It was my only hope. Under the cover of darkness, I squeezed through the narrow window, my heart pounding in my chest. I sprinted through the yard, praying that my captor wouldn't hear me. Miraculously, I found myself in a neighboring backyard. I knocked on the door, tears streaming down my face, and begged the startled homeowner for help. The police arrived swiftly, and I was taken to safety. The man in the baseball cap was apprehended and later identified as a notorious serial killer who had been terrorizing the region for years. My brave escape had finally put an end to his reign of terror. I faced a long and challenging road to recovery, both physically and emotionally. With the support of my family, friends, and therapy, I began to rebuild my life. I moved away from the small town that had once been my sanctuary and started anew. My story of survival serves as a reminder of the strength of the human spirit and the importance of vigilance. I've learned that sometimes listening to one's instincts and seeking help early can make all the difference. Though I'll never forget the horrors I endured, I'm determined to make the most of my second chance at life and help others find their own strength in the face of darkness.
Made my way through the dimly lit streets. I'd always considered myself a cautious person, but that night, a strange unease settled over me. I had no idea that my instincts were trying to warn me of the terror lurking just around the corner. As I approached my apartment building, a man emerged from the shadows. He was a stranger, tall and lean, with a sinister glint in his eyes. My heart raced as he began to follow me. Panic gripped me and I quickened my pace. But the footsteps behind me matched mine, growing ever closer. I fumbled for my phone, fingers trembling, and dialed 911. I whispered my location, my voice trembling with fear. The operator assured me that help was on the way, but I knew I had to find a safe haven before it was too late. My building was just ahead, and I could see the faint glow of the lobby's lights. The knowledge that safety was so close gave me a surge of hope. I increased my speed, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The man behind me quickened his pace as well, his heavy breathing echoing in the stillness of the night. I reached the entrance of the building and practically lunged inside, slamming the heavy door shut behind me. I fumbled with my keys, desperately trying to get inside my apartment. My trembling hands finally found the right key, and I rushed in, locking the door with a shuddering click. I peered through the peephole, my heart still pounding in my chest. The man stood just outside, his face obscured by a hood. He seemed to sense that I had escaped him for now. I watched in terror as he slowly turned away and disappeared into the night. The police arrived shortly after, and I provided them with a description of the man who had pursued me. They promised to increase patrols in the area and urged me to stay vigilant. That night, I didn't sleep a wink. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped something truly horrifying. In the days that followed, I became hyper-aware of my surroundings, always looking over my shoulder, wondering if the stranger would return. I installed security cameras in my apartment and started taking self-defense classes. I refused to let fear consume me, determined to regain my sense of security. Months later, my fears were confirmed when the police made a chilling discovery. The man who had pursued me that fateful night turned out to be a local serial killer responsible for a string of gruesome murders in our city. My narrow escape had been nothing short of a miracle. Though the knowledge sent shivers down my spine, it also reinforced the importance of listening to one's instincts and taking every precaution necessary to stay safe. My story became a cautionary tale for others, a stark reminder that danger could be closer than we ever imagined. And I, the one who barely escaped the clutches of a local serial killer, became an advocate for personal safety and the importance of trusting that inner voice that had saved my life.
I've always believed that life's most treasured moments are the ones shared with friends, and that belief was tested to the extreme one fateful summer evening. It was a night like any other as my friends and I gathered at our favorite cabin deep in the woods, looking forward to a weekend filled with laughter and adventure. Our group consisted of 5 close friends: Sarah, Mark, Rachel, Mike, and myself, Alex. We'd known each other since childhood, and our bond was unbreakable. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the forest around us grew darker, we gathered around a campfire. Stories and laughter filled the air as we roasted marshmallows and shared old memories. Little did we know, this was the last night we'd have such carefree moments together. Around midnight, a rustling in the bushes caught our attention. We dismissed it as an animal at first, but the unease that crept over us was undeniable. Sarah, ever the brave one, grabbed a flashlight and ventured towards the sound. Within moments, she returned, her face pale and eyes wide with terror. She whispered that she had seen a man lurking in the shadows, his eyes filled with malice. Panic gripped our group, and we quickly gathered our belongings, ready to leave the cabin behind. But our escape wouldn't be so simple. As we reached the cabin's entrance, we heard a chilling voice from the darkness. "You can't run from me," it hissed, sending shivers down our spines. The man was close, much too close for comfort. With no time to spare, we decided to flee into the forest, hoping to lose him in the maze of trees and underbrush. We stumbled through the darkness, guided only by our frantic breaths and the feeble beams of our flashlights. The relentless pursuit continued, with the killer taunting us from the shadows. Every step we took, he seemed to be right behind us, his malevolent laughter echoing through the trees. Fear coursed through our veins, but we couldn't stop. We couldn't give up. Hours passed, and exhaustion weighed heavily on us. Just when it felt like we couldn't go any farther, we stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin. Desperation drove us to seek refuge there, and we barricaded ourselves inside. We huddled together, our hearts pounding in unison, waiting for the inevitable. The minutes felt like hours as we prayed for help to arrive. And then, as suddenly as it had all begun, we heard sirens in the distance. The police had arrived, drawn by the emergency call we had managed to make during our escape. The killer was apprehended, his reign of terror finally at an end. We emerged from the cabin, shaken and scarred by the ordeal, but grateful to be alive. Our bond as friends had been tested like never before, but it had also proven unbreakable. Together, we had faced the unimaginable and emerged stronger for it. As we watched the red and blue lights of the police cars disappear into the night, we knew that this experience would forever bind us together. We were not just friends, we were survivors, forever marked by the night we escaped the clutches of a relentless killer.